So we can't allow Eric's defeat last night, allow the Ted Cruz's and the Rand Pauls to take the party, or their disciples to take over the party, because this is not conservatism. To me, shutting down the government is not being a conservative.
Harsh words. Before Kevin Spacey made the House Majority Whip a household phrase in House of Cards, no one really knew what they did or how important they are. But there's a battle shaping up at the moment that could have lasting repercussions inside the Republican Party. That's just one of them. That and more as we dive inside the Beltway for our daily dose of everything that is D.C. Newsmax political insider John Gizzi joins us. John, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Ed. And the next time you call, you'll be able to see me as well, too.
Well, we didn't want to tell you, John. We didn't want to see you today. No, just kidding. Just kidding, John. Just kidding.
Touche.
Just kidding. Okay, well, I had to throw it in there. All right. Let's talk a little bit about, first of all, about the House Majority Leader right now. Let's follow up on a little bit of where we're going here. We've talked about this before, but has anything shaken out here in the last couple of days as to where this whole battle is heading?
Well, the race for House Majority Leader is pretty much wired, stacked, and packed at this point. Kevin McCarthy has the votes. He will win resoundingly on Thursday afternoon.
Okay.
And it's going to be over with. Congressman Raul Labrador, whom I spoke to at length yesterday, said he is going to wage a challenge, and he's getting support particularly from fellow Tea Partiers and those on the Libertarian side of Congress. Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio, a leading conservative, Justin Amash of Michigan, Libertarian, and Ron Paul acolyte are in his corner strongly. Do they have enough votes to make a difference? Hardly. But he's running not so much to win, but to witness, I believe, and say that issues such as a conservative approach to immigration and the debt ceiling should be on the table and fully discussed by the conference. That's going to be a major step, and that's what the legacy of his candidacy will be.
How will things change, if at all, when Kevin McCarthy takes over?
Well, that's an interesting question. For one thing, he's been likened to Eric Cantor because they're personally close, and he's worked as his understudy. On the other hand, he's a very different sort of person. Eric Cantor, someone I've known throughout his career in Congress, primarily was a fundraiser who worked the Wall Street crowd. His primary opponent who defeated him said that some of the crooks on Wall Street, his term, should have wound up in jail. Instead, they wound up in Eric's Rolodex. Well, Kevin McCarthy's style is simply cultivation of the members, build relationships. When he disagrees with a member, he finds something in common he can work with, and he's considered one of the best counters in the business. Many people half-jestingly said that he's Frank Underwood, the insidious whip on TV's House of Cards come to life. He's rather amused by that. And I'll just share one story. Several years ago, I wrote a critical article about his involvement in the redistricting process in California, suggesting it led to the defeat of other Republican members. This was not editorializing, it was reporting. Other members said that to me. Mr. McCarthy didn't like it, but it didn't stop him from staying in touch with me and inviting me to a private dinner for reporters one night.
So, completely off the subject then, just very briefly, knowing full well that we have both referenced Frank Underwood in House of Cards, what kind of a whip would Frank make today, and would he get away with it?
Oh, I think he would be devious enough that whatever he did, he would get away with because he wouldn't be caught. And again, Kevin McCarthy revealed to me that he and Kevin Spacey, who plays Frank Underwood, have gone bike riding together, and that Mr. Spacey has asked him about the whip's role. So there's kind of a very incestuous relationship between the man who plays Frank Underwood and the man who may be Frank Underwood come to life. So
it may just be that in the next season of House of Cards, we may see a little more reality of Washington, D.C. than we thought we were seeing. Gets a little extra.
I'm going to make a prediction right here with you, Ed.
If you hit me with a spoiler alert and tell anybody on this network what's going to happen in the next season, Gizzi, you're out forever. Don't you dare.
All right. Here's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Kevin McCarthy will make a cameo appearance on House of Cards.
Okay.
The role he'll play, I'm not sure, but I almost smell it coming.
All right. As long as you didn't spoiler alert those of us who will probably sit there and watch for hours and hours and hours on it. By the way, just so the American public knows, because we throw these words around, majority whip, as easy as possible sometimes, but I guarantee you that there are some people out there right now who aren't either House of Cards watchers or maybe are and take it that way, that really don't understand the power level that's here and how important this is and what it means to the Republican Party to find the right person.
Well, the majority leader is the party's leader on the floor of House of Representatives. The Speaker is the person who presides. He doesn't even vote except in the rarest of circumstances. The majority leader is in charge of the agenda that the House votes on. The whip is in charge of getting the votes for a particular position that members in the Republican conference, that is the 233 Republican U.S. representatives, are behind. And I might add that Kevin McCarthy has done a superb job at this. He knows how to get votes. He knows how to count. He knows how to forgive members when they absolutely can't vote the way the leadership wants.
All right, so now that we have that, let's get to some news that's going on here today. Of course, a lot of it is focusing around Iraq right now and what is happening. First of all, let's turn to the Benghazi issue because apparently the special forces, there's been an investigation, there's been a team that has gone overseas. They have come back, or they are coming back, with a suspect in the Benghazi raid this point, the Benghazi murders. What is the buzz around Washington, D.C. today as we take in all this and as we get ready to see this first face that we can start to put with Benghazi?
Well, the issue has never died. I am certain that supporters of former Secretary of State Clinton and Mrs. Clinton herself had hoped it would go away at this point. Not by any stretch of the imagination has it gone away. And I think the very fact that amid a major crisis which could impact on the world's energy economy taking place in the embryonic stages, at least in Iraq, not to mention the bloodshed that's there, the fact that Benghazi continues to come back and haunt the Obama administration is significant in itself. We're going to hear a lot about it. And I might add personally, as a White House correspondent, Jay Carney is leaving the helm and leaving the podium in the White House press room. Josh Earnest is coming in. I have a funny feeling it will be most interesting to watch how he handles the B word, Benghazi.
It's always interesting to watch how anybody handles that. We have talked an awful lot today, John, here on MidPoint about the possible association with Iran for the United States to at least look into it. And I have to tell you something, the opinions here today and some of the folks that we've talked to, most of them are very adamant. They're saying, don't get involved, leave it alone, pull out completely, leave them to their own devices right now. We know, of course, that the White House is considering the possibility of airstrikes. We know that the president has said that he's going to leave all of the options open on the table. Are we any closer to finding out what might happen and what sort of a timetable there might be?
If something is going to happen, it's going to happen in the next few days for a number of reasons. The bloodshed notwithstanding, the fact that the ISIS, that stands for Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, is fast becoming in itself a bona fide state. It has overtaken the Baihi refinery in northern Iraq, and if it isn't now, it soon will be the most financially well-heeled insurgent movement in the history of insurgency and world terrorism at this point. So something has to be done if it's going to be done. Now, I've heard those arguments in the past. I talked to members of Congress yesterday, Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, Congressman Robert Pittenger of North Carolina, both Republicans advocating action, and skeptics of the administration say that the United States has enough friends in the Middle East that it does not need to cozy up to Iran at this point. Senator Lindsey Graham disagrees. But I think you're seeing a strong sentiment on Capitol Hill for doing something, particularly because so many of those who said an airstrike against the Assad regime in Syria would have saved us further trouble now feel a sense of vindication.
About 20 seconds I have left. Do you get the sense that we're any closer to those new troops at the Baghdad embassy pulling out what is left of the staff there, or at least just leaving a skeleton staff there at this point, some action being taken?
At this point, virtually all of the Western embassies are evacuating. No one wants to see a rerun of what happened in the Iranian embassy a generation ago. And it's not only going to be that. Many U.S. oil explorers and other entrepreneurs are in Iraq right now. They have some of the biggest oil fields, particularly in the Kurdish north and the Shiite south. I might add Tony Hayward, the former CEO of British Petroleum, has the Gamel Company heavily involved in oil in Iraq. Pretty
Okay,
soon,
we're going to have
all of the Western businessmen will be out.
We're going to cut it there, John. It is always a pleasure. We'll see you by pictures next time, my friend.
You've got it.
All right, John Gizzi, our Washington correspondent on Newsmax.com. We'll come back because here on Newsmax and MidPoint, we question everything.